Coming up on this edition of Flashtalk, brought to you by Brianne Tierney and Cooling, we wrap our rivalry game against Akron with head men's basketball coach Rob Senderoff, plus look forward to senior night and the road to March. We talk a little gymnastics with Brice Biggin as they get a big meet on Sunday as they take on Eastern Michigan. Brianne Tierney stops by to talk a little women's lacrosse and preview their home game coming up here in a couple of weeks. And head women's basketball coach Todd Starkey also talks about his seniors and looks forward to a big week ahead here for his program. That's all ahead. Plus, we take a look at what's going on around Kent State athletics. It's all coming up in a flash. Welcome back into our Flash Talk studios. We're brought to you by Brianne Tierney and Cooling Griffin. Talking a little Kent State men's basketball at head coach Rob Senderoff. And coach, a tough one on Friday, but just another doggone good college rival basketball game.
Yeah, good game. We didn't defend at the rim the way we needed to in order to win that game. But, our effort's getting better. I do think we're playing better here down the stretch than we were a month ago. And obviously we have a big stretch here, to finish up the season. And hopefully we can finish this the right way and give ourselves a chance to defend our championship up in Cleveland.
Yeah, pivotal 4-game stretch ahead that starts with Buffalo early in the week, and then Saturday it's senior day, always an emotional game. Some coaches love it, some don't. But the fact of the matter is, Central Michigan playing extremely well. One of the upper echelon teams in the Mid-American Conference, and have done so really locking down some teams defensively.
Yeah, they've had a great season. Central Michigan has, and like you mentioned, their defensive numbers in conference have been really, really good. It's going to be a challenge for us for sure. Senior night, you always want your seniors' last game in the MAC Center to be a win, and hopefully we'll have a great effort on Saturday afternoon to accomplish that.
It's a doubleheader as the women take on Buffalo. The guys take on Central Michigan. It's senior day for both, so come on out to the MAC Center, ksutix.com. Going to be a great atmosphere, a way to, like you said, send out some guys in a big way. But let's talk a little bit about your senior class. We got Jake Snyder, who is come in as a walk-on and done a number of great things, both on the court and I'm sure in the locker room and on the practice floor. But CP and Gio, I think Gio, if he's one of those guys that feels like he's been here forever because of that COVID year, and obviously Chris Payton, a highlight reel career to say the least.
Yeah, so those three guys, Jake Snyder, came to walk on for his extra season, and then will stay with us as a graduate assistant afterwards, trying to work in his coaching career, which is what he'd like to do. Chris Payton, 2 years here. Obviously last year in the MAC tournament, I think he had an unbelievable championship game, which sort of helped us springboard to making the NCAA tournament. You mentioned the dunks and his ability as an athlete to impact our team. And Gio, like you said, has been here 5 years. A lot of injuries throughout his career. And this year, he was our primary point guard this year being his senior year. So those guys, the last home game, you always want to win your senior night game because you remember that forever. So, hopefully, we can come out here. Those guys can play well, and our whole team can play well to get a win for their last game in the MAC Center.
Gio's kind of almost been, for lack of a better word, a steadying force on your offense for the last 5 years. Just like you said, to me, been a rock solid, almost a pass first kind of point guard, but a guy that just kind of, to me, plays with a. You may differ, but he plays with a high basketball IQ in my mind, to where he always just seems to be a guy that doesn't get too high, too low, and doesn't let the momentum kind of waver how he plays.
Yeah, Gio's had a really good career for, like you said, 5 years, because his first year here, getting used to things, and then had an opportunity during the COVID year to be the primary point guard. Sincere was here the last 2 years, and he got hurt during our run to the NCAA tournament last year. and he's been our primary, ball handler, primary point guard this year. Jalen Sullinger's also handled that as well. So, Gio, he's one of the leaders in assists in the league, and like you mentioned, he's a guy who, for 5 years has been a big part of our program.
Well, like we said, it all gets underway on Saturday, and then you guys go to Ball State and Toledo to close it out. So let's hit the ground running and get some momentum going into March.
That's the plan, Dan.
Welcome into the GFTV studios once again. We're brought to you by Brian Heating and Cooling, talking on Flashtalk a little gymnastics with head coach Brice Biggin. And coach, picking up a big victory. Anytime you can win on the road is great, but you top 196 on the road in a victory over Central Michigan. You had to be pleased with the overall performance from your team.
Yeah, and anytime you go down to Central Michigan, it's going to be a really tough competition. We've been teams who have battled it out for years, and when you can go down to their place, come back with a victory, it's a huge bonus for our kids.
Yeah, like in that 196 line, for whatever reason within in college gymnastics, seems to be that kind of line of demarcation, especially on the road. That's a good countable score going forward, so congratulations there.
Yeah, we know that really that is kind of the magic score that's been about the last 5 years. It's a 9.8 average, so you're talking about not an easy thing to do, but really if you want to make any type of noise in the NCAA, that's really the score that you want to aim for week in and week out.
Well, talk a little bit about the consistency of your team. This is a team that has topped 197 at times. You had a perfect 10 here this year, so obviously the sky's the limit. There's a lot of potential on this team because it's shown in some of our key performances.
Yeah, we were a little unsure what we were going to get going into the year because we lost a really good senior class from last year, and we brought in a lot of freshmen. And anytime you bring in freshmen, you're not exactly sure how they're going to adapt to the college scene. But really, we've seen that, number one, the potential is definitely there. And number two, the consistency is becoming pretty good for this team. Every once in a while, we'll have a little bit of an issue here or there. But to be honest, I think right now we're probably a little bit ahead of schedule. And like you said, the ceiling right now for these guys is unbelievable.
Well, when you talk about bringing in a talented freshman class, what's the biggest adjustment for a collegiate gymnast to go from high school to the college scene? Is it the judging? Is it the rigors of training and just the overall schedule and balance? Is it getting used to the new atmosphere? A little bit of everything.
A little bit of everything. Obviously, in private club, most of the times they're going to compete once every other weekend. Sometimes they'll compete back to back, but very seldom do they ever go 2 or 3 weeks in a row. And obviously, when they get here, once we start, we're competing week in and week out, and it becomes a grind on the body physically, mentally, emotionally. So it's a change there. And then also the fact that, when they're competing in private club, if they make a mistake, the only one who's really affected by it is them. Now, all of a sudden, they're in a situation where if they make a mistake, it can affect drastically how the team does, too.
Well, you talk about competing every week. You guys have a 2-meet week here this week, going down to Columbus for a quad against Ohio State, Illinois, and BG, and then you're home to Eastern Michigan on Sunday. So at this crunch time of the year, do you go with a deeper lineup? Like, how do you manage a 2-meet week when you are talking about girls that are used to competing maybe twice a month, let alone twice a week?
Yeah, that's kind of the tough decisions that we have to make. I mean, obviously, both meets are extremely important. Going down to Ohio State, we face them in Illinois, which are 2 really good teams, and Bowling Green, who at any time can be a really solid team. So they scored almost a 196 this past weekend. So we want to do well out there. We want to make sure that we come away with a good away score. But then obviously Sunday we've got Eastern Michigan here, who's having a really good year themselves as well. We'll take it kind of meet by meet. We'll see how the girls compete on Friday, see how they're feeling. If we need to make little changes, that's one of the things that we do like about this team is we feel like our depth is good. And so if we need to add a couple different individuals in for Sunday's meet, we really feel like we're not losing anything.
You could compete, you could run the same routine twice, and judges could see it 2 different ways depending on how the meet's going and where you are.
Yeah, and that's the thing that you can't ever really account for is, how the judge is going to look at some things. One judge may look at one aspect of the routine being really important. A different judge could look at it completely differently.
Well, I'll finish with kind of just an overarching question about your sport. March is Women in Sport Month. As someone who has been a long champion of women's athletics and been a longtime coach of a women's sport, just talk about the growth of gymnastics and just women's athletics in general.
It's amazing. Like I consider ourselves so lucky. Obviously, Rudy Bachna is the one who started the program here and has done so much for women's sports. We have so many pioneers here at Kent State. When you look at Judy Devine, Kathy O'Donnell, Jen Kulix, those people have been so instrumental in really petitioning for women in athletics and women's sports. We really find ourselves very lucky to have those people, and they've kind of set the standard, and then really have opened up great opportunities for us. And we, obviously feel like it's extremely important, that the women get their opportunity and that they continue to grow and prosper in today's NCAA.
Well, our fans get another chance to see you guys compete inside the Mac Center on Sunday. Best of luck in a two-match week, and keep going strong the rest of the year.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Welcome back into the GFTV studios. Flashtalk is always brought to you by Brian Heing and Cooling, talking a little lacrosse with head women's lacrosse coach Brianne Tierney and coach. First and foremost, you get a big victory over the weekend as you guys did the tour of Delaware, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about the big victory over the Hornets. You guys put up goals in bunches in a pretty comfortable victory over the Hornets. So just talk a little bit about what went right over the first couple of games.
Yeah, I think we really made a shift this weekend, and I know maybe the score doesn't tell us about it from yesterday's game at Delaware, but big shift on our draw controls and just a shift in mindset. We won a lot of draws this weekend. Sydney Daring did a wonderful job. Zeta Crumpton, I think, had 9 draw controls at Delaware State, and that was certainly the difference maker. I think at either end, both teams were scoring at will, and so getting the possessions was important, and then just kind of having longer possessions towards the end of the game on Friday helped us secure the victory.
Well, yeah, we've talked at length about it, but controlling the draw obviously controls the momentum and the tempo of the game. It's like winning a face-off in ice hockey, for lack of a better word. But for you guys, you win the draw, you can set up your offense, you get 90 seconds to cook a little bit, and if nothing else, either you stem the tide from the momentum going against you, or you can keep that wave rolling on your side. So controlling that initial scrum in the middle is pivotal.
Yeah, and that's what we did well on Friday. We struggled with that a little bit yesterday. Our possessions in the first half at Delaware were very short, and so looking to build on the victory Friday, it's learning those lessons of the longer possessions help you win games. And yeah, you can score at the end of them, or like you said, kind of the best defense is a good offense, and having that possession really makes a difference. So some lessons this weekend for sure. I think we got a lot better yesterday. And again, I know the score doesn't kind of show it, but we did some really great things that we can build on. And Lindenwood's a tough team, so moving into that game, we have some success coming out of Delaware in both ways, in the win and also just the lessons we learned against a really strong Delaware team.
Yeah, the coach adage always goes, you either win or you learn. Yep. And you can obviously learn a little bit from the victories as well. But if you do a lot of good things against a really good team, it does a couple of things. It obviously reaffirms to what you guys are doing, and then it might show some cracks in that armor a little bit going, all right, we need to work on this, that, and the other, because the non-conference obviously prepares you for that crucial second season within the MAC.
Yeah, no doubt. And coming out of, I was more proud of yesterday's game, believe it or not, than I was of Friday's game. We just showed a lot more poise and intensity and played well against a really strong team. Maybe played down a little bit Friday, where wasn't super happy with our discipline and those sorts of things that coaches love to harp on and talk about. So definitely improved even in this weekend alone.
Well, I'll ask you kind of a broad view question about your sport as a whole. March is obviously Women in Sports Month. Women's lacrosse, one of the fastest growing sports. You've grown up both on the men's and women's side in the sport. Just talk a little bit about the month of March and the explosion of your wonderful sport as it spans the nation.
Yeah, and when we started here at Kent State, the program, I think we were one of 3 Division I programs in women's lacrosse, and now I think we're one of 7, and so we continue to build and grow, and it's just such a wonderful sport to be a part of. And Women in Sports Month alone, just celebrating all these wonderful young athletes that work their butts off every day and go hard for me and our university. Just so proud of them.
You guys are on the road again this upcoming week, but back at home here in a couple of weeks to take on Longwood. We look forward to you guys being back in the friendly confines at Dick Stadium.
Yeah, can't wait.
Let's take a look at what's going on around Kent State athletics. As always, it's brought to you by ksutix.com. On Saturday, our men's and women's basketball teams will host their respective senior nights. 1 p.m., the women take on the Buffalo Bulls, and then shortly thereafter the game concludes, the men will be taking on Central Michigan. Get here early as there will be a Kent State basketball sock giveaway. On Sunday, we wrap the weekend with our gymnastics team hosting Eastern Michigan. That's a 1 p.m. start. There'll be a lunchbox giveaway, and it's Hometown Heroes Day. First responders and other hometown heroes will get free admission to the meet. On Tuesday, believe it or not, it's our baseball home opener as we welcome in the Tiffin Dragons for a 4 p.m. first pitch at Schoonover Stadium. And on Wednesday, get to the Mac Center, a 5 p.m. tip-off as our women's basketball team hosts Ball State. That game has been flexed to national TV and will air on ESPNU. And lastly, we want to give a shout out to our men's indoor track and field team, capturing the first Mid-American Conference title for the Golden Flashes since 2009. Way to go, guys. We're back with more Flash Talk right after this. Welcome into our GFTV studios. It's Flash Talk. As always, we're brought to you by Brian Heating and Cooling. Talking some Kent State women's basketball with head ball coach Todd Starkey. And, Coach, it's always good when we can talk about a big victory on Saturday, even better when it's over the arch rival.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's another season, another sweep. So great opportunity for our players to continue to have success in that rivalry, and I know our players always get a little extra hype for that. And it was great. I thought our defense, on Saturday was exceptional, especially in the second half. I thought we really responded to, our adjustments at halftime, and did a really good job of just keeping them in check, especially, Reagan Bass, one of the better players in the league, and I thought we did a really good job on her.
You're holding a pretty good team to 21 points, and you're shutting out their best player. You have to feel great about, especially your interior defense.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think some of those threes were a byproduct of our focus on defending the interior, and they ran some good stuff to get shooters open based on the way we're defending, and it's kudos to Alexis Stewart. Comes off the bench and goes 3 for 4 in the second half, hitting some threes, and then they hit a 3 right there at the end of the game as well. Other than those 12 points, I mean,
sure.
Like I said, they were pretty much 9 points the rest of the half, and so once again, kudos to our defense and the way our players really responded. I thought we played great team defense and a big response. The biggest thing is how you respond after losses, and that's the thing that I was most happy about is the fact that we knew we let one slip away. We didn't play our best at Ohio. We got things right in practice, and then in the game it paid off. And that's what a coach always wants to see is a response.
Our last thought before we put that one to bed, we talked about the defense, but I thought your post and play around the basket offensively was phenomenal. Whether it be the drivers getting to the lane for high quality shots or. I mean, Janae and Michaela were next level.
Yeah, when we get those two going, it's and that was an emphasis for us to kind of really get back to focusing on getting paint touches and playing inside. I mean, Mick got things started early and made some nice shots early and was aggressive, and then Janae came off the bench and just had a really good performance. And so it's a really nice 1-2 punch for us. When those two get going and you still have Katie Shoemate and Jenna Batch that are available to score at will, it's a good combination for us. So once again, preparing us for, these games, finishing out conference play strong and being at our best here as we're moving into March.
So 2-game week here this week. You get to go back to Ypsilanti to take on the Eagles, and then senior day as you welcome in Buffalo. Let's start with the road trip at hand.
Yeah, these late season road trips are always dangerous. You got teams that are playing with a sense of desperation. We found that out this past Wednesday, and hopefully we'll get their attention. I know we'll get their attention, going up there, and we're excited about the opportunity to kind of get back on the road and really prove ourselves out there. And Eastern Michigan provides its own set of issues, but it's more about how we're playing at this point in the season.
Well, obviously the look-ahead game would be Saturday against Buffalo. Rather than scouting the Bulls, I'll give you the final little platform here to talk a little bit about the seniors. I know this class means an awful lot to you, as they all do.
Yeah, absolutely. And, this time of year always is a little bit bittersweet. Want to make sure we're finishing on a high note. But, what Michaela Morris did at Quinnipiac and then choosing to come here, has been great. And she's been a lot of fun to coach and really, really happy with her choice to come here and spend her last year of college basketball with the Flashes. Abby Ogle coming in, and she's had a lot of ups and downs, some injuries and that type of thing that she's battled, and now to see what she's doing, one of the top players in the conference in steals per game, and definitely top in steals per minutes played. And so she's brought so much energy to us, and I there's not enough time to really talk about what Katie Shoemate has meant to this program. She's going to end up with over 1,800 points and 800 rebounds before it's all said and done, and one of the all-time great players in Kent State women's basketball history, and I've loved coaching her and love her competitiveness, and we got more to go, but just want to finish on as high a note as we can for all three of those seniors.
It's going to be a great day on Saturday as we celebrate the men's and women's senior class. Coach, let's put 2 on the left side of the ledger, and we'll talk about it again next week.
Absolutely. Sounds good. Go Flashes.
That's going to do it for this edition of Flash Talk, brought to you by Brian Hagan Cooling. We hope you can join us next week when we take another deep dive into the wonderful world of Kent State athletics. For all of us here inside the GFTV studios, this is Dan Griffin saying goodnight, and go Flashes.